What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. The Game Awards just wrapped up. We're going to be talking about that today. It didn't go over as well at the end. Online, people were pretty disappointed with the show, but there was at least, I think, a really big announcement in there that we're going to go over, and that is the next Xbox has been officially unveiled. We have full pictures of it, a press release talking about some of the features. We've even seen the controller. That was the biggest announcement, I would say, from last night at the Game Awards, but we still have a few other things to go over from there as well. It's a bit later tonight, but we wanted to get Newswave out in the morning with the Game Awards as part of it, so if you guys could, make sure you hit the like button to help out the video and the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe down below so you can stay up to date on all of the gaming news going on in the gaming world. We are going to start today with some quick bits of news here and there. We're going to start with Halo Master Chief Collection. Now, of course, it's been moved to the PC, and a lot of people are kind of playing around with it now, and one of the coolest projects that I've seen going on currently is on Twitter, where a person has actually been playing around with the idea of Halo in VR. It's a full video. You can check out the tweet. It has a full video and all of that here. It's from Nibre there, and it says more progress on Reclaimer VR, and you can see they are looking around in Halo and also moving the controller and everything with the kind of the VR motion controls there. And you know what? It looks really good. Like, it looks like something that Microsoft themselves, along with 343, would have made. I've thought about from time to time the different things that Microsoft has that VR could actually be kind of neat with, and Halo is one of those things that kind of comes up in my mind. Of course, we have motion controls to just kind of shoot and everything and look around, but being able to kind of look around in 3D space in the Halo universe would be really, really neat. Unfortunately, Microsoft does not seem that interested in VR currently, but hey, there's always fan projects, and this one looks super professional. Maybe Microsoft should look into maybe talking with this person, maybe bringing them in to work on it. Also, if you missed it yesterday, the Super Nintendo and Nintendo games went live, and I didn't notice any Super Nintendo SP, the Special Edition, or the save states, or the ROM hacks. Nothing like that went live, but we did get 6 games yesterday, so if you forgot about it, they're live, and we'll talk a bit about them. I went through and played all of them just to see how they were, and yeah, they were all good, and I'm actually excited about 2 of them specifically, but just very quickly, we'll go down a list here for you. We have Breath of Fire 2, Kirby Superstar, Star Fox 2, Super Punch-Out!, and then on the Nintendo, we have Crystalis and Journey to Silius. I spent quite a bit of time playing Super Punch-Out! Because I really like that game. I think it's an awesome game if you have not played it. I mean, it's the original Punch-Out!, but better graphics and all of that, and I just think it's a really, really good game. I also played Star Fox 2 because that is a game that a lot of people have not played, and of course, if you did not buy the Super Nintendo Classic, this is going to be a new Star Fox game for you, and it's pretty good. It's still kind of at the time where 3D graphics were super primitive on the Super Nintendo, but if you consider that it's a game on the Super Nintendo, it's actually pretty impressive. You'll end up going around the map and end up in kind of like 3D all-range mode, first person inside the ship kind of combat, but it's pretty neat, and it does show them kind of working towards Star Fox 64, which is what ended up kind of coming in its place. It showed up when they started canceling and putting that on the back burner, but a bunch of games there to check out. Also, if you're into RPGs, Breath of Fire 2 is pretty good, and I played Crystalis, and I had not played it before, really. That's like a Zelda game that a lot of people probably missed out on the NES. So actually some good stuff there. It was a good update. 6 games, but now the question is, how long do we have to wait? Another 3 months for more games? We'll see. Oh, and this was an interesting thing that happened yesterday ahead of those Game Awards. Resident Evil 2, a new demo seemed to appear, but it was basically the old demo, the RPD demo, and we had a couple of places recognize this, that it didn't have the time limit. So you can just play it completely, straight up, as long as you want, it seems, and within the boundaries of the game that they've laid out, because I believe originally it was like 30 minutes, and we've had several places now just leave it on for 40 minutes to an hour just to see, so I guess maybe this is just in anticipation of Resident Evil 3. If you download the new demo that has appeared currently on the Xbox One store and PS4, you can, I guess, play around with it and try it out as we go towards Resident Evil 3. There's still that question of that achievement that's kind of sitting around right now that has to do with Jill from Resident Evil 3, so we'll see how all of that goes. But for now, you can get a demo and there's no time limit. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with the Xbox Series X console. Now, we know, of course, there is supposedly Lockhart as well. No, this appears to be Anaconda, the beast, if you will, and they displayed it a little bit with a game that a lot of us got pretty excited about, especially if you played the original, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I wanted to separate this from the Game Awards because this was like the hype announcement, I would say, of the night. Not really expecting it at all. Like, did anyone go to the Game Awards or turn it on thinking, I'm going to see the next Xbox, I'm going to see a next-gen console? No, I didn't. I didn't think that at all, but it happened. Here is the Xbox Series X. They had a full trailer, they have renders and pictures of it, and I have to say, it caught me off guard quite a bit. I did not expect them to show up with what looks like a PC tower, and they pretty much showed it in that orientation. If they were going to show it as a console, I figured they would have showed it horizontally, which it can sit. No, they showed it as a vertical system that looks just like a PC tower, or if you go online, I don't know, people are putting it in places of like the fridge or something in your kitchen. But let's talk a little bit about what we can expect from this machine, because they did send out a press release talking about several different things, including delivering 4 times the processing power of the Xbox One X in the most quiet and efficient way, which I have some comments on what they're kind of referring to there and the way it's set up. Now, of course, we already know the CPU is going to be based on Zen 2, and we assume, as we've kind of talked about before, that it's going to be based on Navi. It will have an NVMe SSD, and it does, of course, boost load times. It will support 8K gaming, which I think is still upscaled, but they're claiming 8K gaming. We'll see how that goes there. And frame rates up to 120 frames per second, and also ray tracing, of course, variable refresh rate support. It looks like this thing will indeed be a beast. We've talked about before, 12 teraflops of power will get you, we roughly assume 4K 60 fairly easily. Now, they did show off a controller in front of it, and it looks different. It appears to have a share button right in the middle, which, okay, I mean, a share button is commonplace with things like the PlayStation 4, and of course we have like the capture button on the Nintendo Switch Pro controller and Joy-Con, so we'll see how they handle that, if it's any different. I think it'll probably be very similar to the PlayStation 4 controller, where pressing and holding does different things than just clicking and pressing and bringing up things like streaming services with Twitch. So I at least like that they have included that, and it's right in the center where it'll probably be harder to press. I think overall the most interesting part about this system is its look. It is a thick looking system. From what I can tell, based on the controller they showed in front of it and my own Xbox One X, it almost looks like it's basically 2 Xbox One X's stacked next to each other and standing up, and maybe a little taller than that. This is not going to be a little system. From what I can tell, this will probably be the biggest system that they've ever released from a bulk standpoint. Like, this is going to be, like I said, like a PC. That's what it looks like. Now, they did say you could put it horizontally, although I think there is a reason that it is vertical. I believe the heat they're trying to push out through the top, which makes sense considering heat rises, and if they put one fan in there that pushes through a large heatsink, they should get better cooling, and because the fan should be larger, it'll probably be pretty quiet too, especially if they can hide it towards the base pushing air up. I like that idea, and you know what? I'm okay with the design. I mean, I know we're to the point where everyone's trying to put out these slim boxes, but I mean, if it's gonna sound better, it's gonna be quieter and it'll be even cooler. Yeah, I'd prefer it just to be larger so I don't have to deal with returns or my system overheating or any of that, but we'll be taking one of those apart. You better believe that. It'll be very interesting to see how that's all put together. And then they did show off some of the power of the system with a game that was running in-engine, according to them, Hellblade 2. So we are getting a sequel to Hellblade, and visually, it looked insane. Like, it looks super realistic. Like, the facial animations and all that from the characters, and this is going to be very, very exciting to play. And what's really cool is we finally see a game from next generation. We saw I think we saw one other one throughout the night that was coming for the PlayStation 5, but this was Microsoft showing up and saying, oh, everyone's saying we don't have dev kits ready and we're falling behind. How about we just show you our system? That's what they did. They showed up, they showed the system, they showed a game playing on the system, and I'm interested now what Sony's response is. Did they get caught off guard, or are we going to see the PlayStation 5 maybe sooner than we were thinking? February? Is that too late even? Do you think they'll strike in January? Next gen console race is it's getting interesting now, so I'm ready for 2020. Next up, let's talk about the Game Awards. If you remove, I think anyway, the Xbox Series X, if you remove that announcement from it, I think overall it was kind of disappointing. That was the big announcement, was that. I mean, there were some other really good ones we'll talk about, but nothing major. There was no Joker for Smash, just as an example there. Nothing like that. But let's go over the announcements, as I have a nice little timetable set up here with the different announcements as we went through, since I figure we wouldn't have any of the announcements written up by any sites by the time we had to record this. So here we go. Let's go through some of the games that we saw there. So starting off, they did show us the strategy game Humankind. Of course, that was something we saw at Gamescom from Sega. Then we saw a Final Fantasy VII Remake trailer. That was one that they showed quite a bit of Cloud in, but nothing really new that I saw in that trailer. We did get they kind of messed with us a bit, but it ended up being No More Heroes 3, and that's coming 2020, of course. I did like how they kind of faked us out with that one, but it was a fun trailer. I don't know. It was No More Heroes 3. Why not? Keep that in our minds as we go along here. Then, of course, we had the Xbox Series X, which I think showed up a bit too early in this award show, but they did show that one. Then we had a PlayStation 5 game that was announced just after that. That's called Godfall. Supposedly it's a looter slasher, according to them, not a looter shooter. And then we had a bit more information about the Xbox Series X, which is going to have 4 generations of backwards compatibility, which I think is something we assumed at this point. But according to them, the Xbox One peripherals will be compatible as well as any first-party game saves. Those will also carry over. Probably the biggest announcement, I think, for the Switch was Bravely Default 2. That's coming in 2020. That's a big-time announcement, I would say. Probably, like I said, one of the biggest announcements of the night. But if that's the big announcement and it's not even from Nintendo, that's a little head-scratching there. But that's going to be a Nintendo Switch exclusive in 2020. We'll see more information about that, I'm sure, going into the next Direct or just throughout the year going towards his release. We seem to have a lot of League of Legends based stuff here. We had a Riot Forge game, Ruined King, a League of Legends story. And then we had PlayerUnknown's next project, Prologue, which was announced. End Night revealed sequel to The Forest, which is just Sons of the Forest. Looked very, very strange. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is coming out March 11th, but I believe Game Pass gets a little bit earlier. We did see Cyberpunk 2077 soundtrack, which had quite a bit of music, and even saw a live performance, which was pretty cool. And then we did see the Xbox Series X controller with a share button, like we talked about before. Ghost Tsushima is coming summer 2020, and the trailer looked amazing. I'm very excited for that one. Naraka Blade Point looked suspiciously like Sekiro, but that is a multiplayer ninja game, and it looks all right, I would say. It is weird that is one of the better looking games towards the back half of this show, but that's the one from NetEase that they had teased earlier on Twitter. Gears Tactics, the Gears of War game that's going to be like an RTS, kind of reminds me of XCOM. That's coming April 2020. And then we had the tactical first-person shooter 9 to 5 that barely had any real showing, but that is going into alpha, and you can sign up for that now. Then we had Convergence that was, I guess, Convergence, a League of Legends story. Again, another League of Legends game. And then they closed it off with what was very, very strange. Fast and the Furious is getting a game that's coming in May of 2020 from the Project Cars Studios. I have no idea why they closed out on this. I don't know what happened here. The whole time, everyone, whether it's in the chat on Twitch, on YouTube, on Twitter, was expecting some big announcement to close the entire show out, and it was the Fast and the Furious. And I have to say, it didn't look great. All right, what they showed visually, the gameplay, I was kind of like, it just didn't look that inspired. I don't know. It didn't look that different. Visually, it didn't even look that good. So I questioned why that was what they closed out with, but then they bring out Vin Diesel, and then they talk about the movie, and it all started to add up to, okay, it probably helped fund a good portion of this show. Let's be straight about that. But I think that still could have been there and not closed out. I mean, they could have even closed out with the next Xbox, and that would have been interesting, much more interesting than this. And I think it's very important to go out on a high note. So you want to start with a high point. You can have, a bit of a lull. You have a midpoint that's very, very high. And then at the end of the show, you have another high point to close out with. I just don't know why the planning for some of these things goes this way. But they did at least close out saying that Sekiro won Game of the Year, which caught a lot of us off guard. We were thinking either Death Stranding or it would be Resident Evil 2, but I'm happy. Hey, good for Sekiro. I'm glad FromSoft got that award, got that trophy. Good for them. I just wish the Game Awards was a little better. Nintendo really didn't have much of a presence. Sony had Ghost of Tsushima, but otherwise nothing too major. There was no Crash announcement that Sony had the marketing rights to. Nothing like that. It was just I don't know, there wasn't anything really massive there other than Xbox Series X. Yes, Bravely Default 2 was there, and that was pretty neat, and then some other games, but I don't know, it didn't feel as good as last year. No like standout announcement outside of a new system, but hey, let me know what you guys thought about the Game Awards. I just wasn't as sold on them overall, but I am glad that Sekiro won. I thought that was pretty cool. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a game delay for Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. I was excited to see this get remastered. It was supposed to be coming out like soon, I think by the end of this year, and that's doesn't seem to be happening, but they did announce on Twitter that it is being pushed to summer of 2020, and then they talked a bit about the systems that it was going to be coming to and some of the features in a tweet saying, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition is coming to PS4, Nintendo Switch, iOS, and Android devices. You'll be able to play online with your friends and transfer your save file across all 4 platforms when the game launches in summer of 2020. So that's pretty cool to hear. Save transfers will happen. You can play on your phone, or I guess you could play on your PS4, and then you want to jump over to your Switch, you could transfer your saves around. And they also went on to say, we just need more time to polish it. Okay, I can wait. Summer 2020, all right, it's fine, a couple months, and then we'll be playing it. Although summer can go all the way to what, September? So maybe it's longer than I thought. Either way, I'm happy they're taking the time with it rather than just push it out. And cross-save, cross-play, all that stuff. It's good to see Nintendo, Sony, and they can all get together now and have a game go across all of the platforms. Either way, though, I'll be looking forward to this one just next year. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one's from Q saying, Payday 2 devs don't know how to optimize properly. They should have allowed Panic Button or Feral Interactive to do the port, and they could have done that. Trust me, Panic Button, no problem there, but there are a lot of things in the background. Is Panic Button available? Is Feral available? Because right now, I see them getting snatched up by quite a few places to do some pretty big games, so maybe they don't even want to do Payday 2 because there are better paying jobs, which is the other thing that comes back to, you gotta pay them. So there's a chance that we might be seeing Overkill Studios and Starbreeze looking at this and saying, let's do it as cheap as we can and make this work. That's the biggest thing there. And then, hey, if it does work out, right, because they're designing it for the PS4 and the Xbox One and get money and all of that from hopefully releasing to a very large audience, they can then go back and say, okay, now we can pay Panic Button, now we can pay Feral to get this thing ported over. And hey, I mean, Panic Button has experience with things like Warframe for these live service-based type games, and Payday 2 is kind of a live service-based game, I guess, but it's a shame. I guess they're not in a good spot and they have to get Payday 3 done without spending a ton of money. And that's kind of why it's not coming to the Switch, or at least Payday 2 is not having any more support on the Switch. They just don't seem to have the money or the manpower to get it done. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's that Xbox Series X system. You know what? I'm okay with the design. I like the look. I just want to hear more. I definitely want to see more games because, man, the Hellblade sequel looked crazy. So I'm ready to see more games on these next-gen platforms. But let me know what you thought about the Game Awards overall. Were you disappointed? Were you happy to see some games win awards? Or maybe you liked some of the reveals? Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.